opinions and views expressed in the following program are those of the speakers and the host, and do not necessarily reflect those of Yoakley Scott Corporation and your sports network.
Yeah, I've been closer to Jesus before, so can you help me out? Oh, can you help me out? Am I on my own? Am I on my own? Or can you help me out? Am I on my own? Am I on my own? Or can you help me out? Can you help me out? I've been scared to look in my soul. I've been afraid I would follow the road. Yeah, afraid of the things I've been told.
Hello, everybody. Welcome inside a Friday episode of Running Point on YSNLive.com, brought to you as always by our good friends up in that top right corner of the screen, Greenwood Chevrolet in Austin Town. They go the extra mile for you, and we try to do the same here on this show every single day. Thank you so much for tuning in. Bear with me today, guys. It's one of those Fridays. I don't know if you guys ever had them where your brain, like, all of a sudden this thinks it's the weekend already, decides, you know what, we're going to deuce out on Friday, because, like, this morning has been one of those ones where I'm fighting with myself. All right, so we're going to get through today, and then we're going to get in the weekend and have a fun one. Let's hop into the scoreboard, brought to you by Burnett Pools, Spas, and Hot Tubs, and see what happened last night. We'll have the recap of last night. We're going to have a football Friday show as well, where we talk about all the matchups first tonight, and then we'll also preview the weekend that's going on. So last night's scoreboard going to look like this. Southern Local went down to United, did drop a set, but still won 3-1 over the Eagles. How about Orange falling to Chagrin Falls? Orange cannot get the win. Edgewood does get the win, however, 3-0 over Geneva. If you're watching this for the first time, we do the first three rows first, and then at the end we'll scroll over to get the last one. West Branch on senior night gets to win over Massillon, Washington in 4 sets there. So congratulations to West Branch. Good bounce back from the Warriors after a tough one on Monday against Girard. Edison beats Brook 3-0. Brook has no wins on the season, so Edison able to take care of business and get the win there. Champion sweeps Liberty 3-0. That's a good bounce back from Champion. They had a tough time against Crestview, but everybody has a tough time against Crestview these days. East Liverpool, this was supposed to be a very competitive game, but they get the sweep. Now, these set scores, by the way, though, if you saw, were not, blowing out, or were not uncompetitive. 3 very good sets, but the Potters find a way to win all 3 of them and get the sweep of Oak Glen in the Potter Fieldhouse. It's a big win for East Liverpool going forward. Newton Falls and Brookfield play a thriller, 5 sets, and Brookfield is the one that comes out on top of this one, 3-2. Crestview gets another MVAC win. They finished the year undefeated, and they didn't even lose a set in the league. 3-0, they get the win over Garfield. We have East Palestine getting the win over Latonia in straight sets. McDonald makes quick work of a very hot Lowville team that had been playing well the last couple of weeks, but McDonald, it's really the same story. They had a little bit of a middle of the season, little drought where they weren't really playing their best volleyball, but they've put it back together. They've made the adjustments, and you look at McDonald the last 2 weeks. On Tuesday, they pushed Middle Ridge to 5. Tonight, last night, they made quick work of a Lowville team that has been giving people problems the last couple weeks. So, McDonald's starting to put it together, and they're going to be a dangerous team come tournament time in that Division 4 district. Middle Ridge gets the win over Springfield 3-0. They clinch the share of the MVAC championship with this win. On senior night, you couldn't ask for a better night in Middle Ridge. You get a sweep. You have senior night where you celebrate your seniors. And then, of course, you get a share of the MVAC championship. So you call yourself conference winners. 13-1 in the conference. Middle Ridge ends the season. Ends the regular season, conference slate. They still have games next week out of conference to get ready for tournament time. Lisbon gets to sweep of Valley Christian in straight sets there. Boardman beats Warren Harding 3-0 is your final score in that one. Western Reserve sweeps Sebring. They also clinch a share of the MVAC Scarlet tier with the win. So Middle Ridge and Western Reserve, they have to play nice and share in the sandbox. They beat each other this year. They split their meetings and they share the MVAC Scarlet tier. South Range ends their losing streak with a thrilling win in the Fieldhouse. 3-2 in 5. South Range gets the win. Campbell gets the win over LeBray in 4 sets, 3-1. And then the game that I was at that I'm going to talk a little bit more about after we get through the scoreboard. Lakeview gets the win over Girard in 5 sets. They win the NE8 outright, back-to-back championships for Lakeview inside the NE8, and they've also won the NE8 started in 18 for volleyball, I believe. So that's 5. They've won 4 of the last 5, 4 of the 5 championships for Lakeview in the NE8, and Girard's the only other team that has won it. So those two that battled yesterday are the only two that have won the conference in its very young so far history of the NE8. But it's been dominance for Lakeview, and they get the win last night to continue that storyline. Let's scroll the rest of the way down here and get you the boys' soccer scores. Columbiana gets the win over Brookfield, 5-2, the final score in that one. How about Kim Memorial putting up a 10 spot against Heartland Christian? Big win for the Red Devils there. South Range beats Niles 5-0, the final score. Poland falls to Hubbard 3-1. That's a big win for the Eagles inside that NE8 conference. Howland gets the win over Warren Harding 8-1. All Tigers, no doubt about that one. Girard shuts out Lakeview 2-0 in boys soccer. Canfield and Boardman do battle, and that was suspended because of rain. There was some rain that stopped some games last night for sure. The rain kind of hit heavy in some places. Austintown, Fitch, and United also games they got canceled because of rain. United was a fun one though because, well, not fun, but it was interesting because, of course, United had a boys-girls doubleheader, and we're going to scroll down to girls soccer. The girls soccer game got in. It was able to beat out the rain, but then the rain came and they were unable to start the boys game. So girls get in, and Springfield gets the impressive 1-0 victory over a very good United team. That kind of screamed tournament potential when those two clashed. But United did get the first game in, and then once in the boys game, the rain hit, and they could not get that boys game in. Badger and Pymatuning Valley tie with a scoreless draw, 0-0. Champion, this is a big test for the Flashes. Probably the biggest test they're going to get before tournament time. Berkshire comes into Champion. They're a very good small school girls soccer team if you don't know the world of girls soccer. Outside of the Ysn family, I know we don't talk too much about teams outside of our coverage too much, but Berkshire is a very good girls soccer team, and this was going to be one that I think was circled on Champion's schedule for a while. Once you started to see how dominant they were going to be inside the conference, you kind of circle this Berkshire game and say this is going to be one towards the end of the season that you really have to watch out for, and you have to see how the Flashes handle this test. And it was definitely a test. Berkshire pushed Champion more than a lot of other teams have this year. 3-2, though. That Champion offense comes through in the clutch, and they do get the win. They have so many weapons that can beat you. I think that's the thing that makes Champion hard to defend. It's not just, hey, let's stop Taylor Kuhn, even though she is their best player for sure. You can have 3 or 4 different girls go off on any given night, which makes it a nightmare to game plan for. And Champion does get the win. That's going to also be big when it comes tournament seeding time and what both teams decide to do with what bracket they go into in the Super District. This one won't play into the voting or the district voting because those were turned in on Wednesday. So, but it will have to do with, I think, the strategic decisions that are made by these coaches when deciding what district to go into. As we scroll back up to the final row of games, we're going to go back up to volleyball and get these ones up here. Jefferson gets the win 3-0 over Lakeside. This is the CVC Lake Championship for Jefferson. They grab it, they win it, they win the conference. First year in the CVC, and they win it. Hey, welcome to the party. Kick the doors in, have a couple of drinks of your fruit punch, have a couple of dances, and then walk out as champions. That's what Jefferson did as they leave the NE8 last year, come into the CVC Lake Division, and they go on and win it in straight sets last night to clinch the CVC championship. Lake Division, I should say. Columbiana and Wellsville doing a lot of thrilling battling last night. It was back and forth the whole time against Wellsville. You knew it would be. The Tigers were not deterred by the fact that they did not have a chance to win the conference with this game. They wanted to still spoil the party a little bit for Columbiana. And even though the Clippers are still your EOAC champions, they can no longer say they're undefeated because Wellsville comes in and gets the 5-set victory over the Clippers, knocks off their undefeated streak, and like I said, spoils the party for Columbiana. Wellsville gets the win in 5 sets. Canfield had their pink night, and they use it to their advantage as they get the 4-set win over Howland inside that AAC. And this was a game where Canfield got a lot of players back from injury. I was talking to Coach Nesbitt on Tuesday when we were at Fitch doing their game in the Falcons Nest, and just talking about her about getting healthy. And she said everyone's going to be back on Thursday. So as long as everything went as planned between Tuesday and yesterday, everyone that Canfield had hurt and was waiting to return was due back in this game. And that just opens the door to talk about how sneaky dangerous Canfield can be in the tournament because of the fact that they've dealt with so many injuries this year, and now everyone's going to get back on the floor. So you're going to start to see the Canfield that everyone expected to be on the floor consistently this year that just wasn't. They had 11 varsity spots to start the season. 7 of those girls at some point of the year got hurt. It's just it's one of those years. You can't really coach against the injury bug, right? You can't tell your girls that don't get injured, do this, don't get it's just some bad luck for Canfield. But the good news is none of it was season ending, and everyone's back now. So this Canfield team, if they can find their rhythm back and find a mesh point to get back to where they were before everyone started to get hurt, then they could be a really sneaky, dangerous team come tournament time because their record will not indicate what they're putting on the floor. You lose games without Jenna Treveri in the middle. You lose a couple of games without Carly Fleming setting. You lose a couple of games without Lily Weaver being in the right side and being a strong right side hitter, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You lost in Fitch because Alexis LaFleur was hurt and couldn't play libero. So, 3 different sets, 3 different liberos trying to figure that out. That's remedied now. So you have those kind of things go on. You can't really fully judge a team's record based on that. And now that they're getting everybody back, they could be one of those, middle of the pack seeds. They still have a week, 3 games left next week. So they could get double-digit wins, which would probably put them, middle of the pack inside that Division II district. That could be a very dangerous matchup for, one of the top 5 teams that has to come into to play them early in the district tournament. Canfield healthy is different than Canfield not. And I know that's kind of obvious to say, but it's still the truth. Warren JFK falls to Ursuline in straight sets last night to continue our journey through the scoreboard. Waterloo, they fall to Jackson Milton 3-0. So Jackson Milton continues to play much better volleyball. They're playing their best volleyball down the stretch of the season. That's always good for the Blue Jays. So before we go and you know what, let's just get the final scores. Then we'll come back up. I'll talk about Lakeview Girard real quick before we take a break and go on to our Football Friday talk. Boys soccer, Salem gets the win over Beaver Local 2-1. It's a tough week for the Beavers against really, really good opponents. 2 close losses as they still continue to have one of the best seasons that their program has ever had. Their girls also fell 2-1 to Ursuline, so a tough night for Beaver Local soccer on both sides, girls and boys. So now let's scroll back up, and I want to talk about Lakeview Girard. I was there. I just want to talk about the game and break it down a little bit more. And this was a matchup between two teams that have developed. It's a rivalry for sure. It's one of those ones that, but it's different than they don't not like each other. They have the utmost respect for each other. You look at Coach Guthrie and Coach Walters and how close they are to each other and how much they respect each other. This was not, the rivalry that you see where, there's bad blood and there's trash. That's not the rivalry this is. This is the rivalry where both teams know this is the best they're going to get, and they really, really want to win with everything they have. And you saw that on the floor. Both teams, effort-wise, you cannot say anything about. The things that both teams struggled with during the spots of the games where they were down were technical, were facets of the game, but it was not effort. It was definitely not effort. Girard came into this one on fire. To be honest, on fire. They were really swinging well. They were getting in system. Their serve was getting Lakeview out of system. They started to really defend Reagan Price pretty dang well in the first 2 sets. They were at times triple teaming her on the net, just saying, hey, Reagan Price is not going to be the player to beat us. They went up 2-0, and they were close sets, yes. But it just felt like Lakeview wasn't playing Lakeview volleyball. Like they weren't making the greatest passes in the world. They were making some unforced errors, not effort plays. Just like, hey, we're going to try to go high off the block and we miss hands and it goes out. Things like that, where they didn't look in sync with each other. And they must have had a very good talk between sets 2 and 3 because they came out and all of a sudden they're playing Lakeview volleyball. Like everything you love about this Lakeview team this year, mainly me, I love their defense, started to click. Because Girard did not stop swinging, did not stop getting in system and getting good swings on the net. What they stopped being able to do was put the ball down. They stopped being able to get those kills because Lakeview's defense was now up for the task, and they were the Lakeview that we saw earlier in the season when they played at Girard, where it was the same story. Lakeview won in 3 that night because Girard, along with a couple of unforced error spurts every now and then, could not put any balls away because Lakeview was just digging everything in the back row, and they were getting their hands on the hits. You weren't going to block them. I think Lakeview made adjustments on the block that I really liked, and Coach Guthrie actually talked about it in her post-game interview. You can find that at ysnlive.com and our YouTube page. But when she's talking about Girard hitters, which are Nico Cochran and Brie Littell, their main hitters, using the block really well. They're very good at using hands to their advantage. So you almost want to be a little bit less aggressive on the block and say, hey, instead of just trying to stuff them, just get hands on it. Like make it hard for them to use the block against you. Time it so their block goes off the top of your hand and you get enough of it to give the back row a better chance to get under the ball. That's what Lakeview did really well in the last 3 sets. Their blockers weren't going for the stuff rejection that gets everybody fired up. They were going for, hey, if we just get our hands on this ball and pop it up in the air, then we can just give our back row, our defense, enough of a chance to get under it and make a good pass. And it seemed like that was happening a lot in the last 3 sets. A lot of swings from Brie Littell and Nico Cochran they were getting through the block, but they weren't going off the block and out. And I thought that was a really good adjustment by not just Reagan Price, but also Ali Paris, who is playing really well at the net. She had, I think, 5 blocks last night, statistically. And a lot of those came in the first 2 sets, right? Where they were getting the blocks every now and then, But because Brie Littell and Nico Cochran are so good at going off the block, that's when they started to say, hey, you know what? The 5 blocks that we have in the first 2 sets aren't getting us wins. They're not being consistent enough. Let's dial back the aggressiveness a little bit, adjust what we're doing on the block, and make sure that our hands are getting on the ball instead of just trying to get the stuff. Because you do that, you're playing into Brie Littell and Nico Cochran's hands, letting them go off the block like they do so well. That being said, Brie Littell, especially in the first 18 points of set 5, they lose 2 in a row. She got into this game takeover mode where she said, you know what? We're not going to lose. I'm not going to let us. Those first 12 points for Gerard were almost all either off of her kills or off of her getting Lakeview out of system and giving Gerard a really good opportunity. She was swinging so well. And then Gerard got into the rotation that I think is the one where they're going to struggle with when they play really good teams in the tournament. Just that this one rotation they have on the floor where Bree is middle back, and then their front row just isn't their top tier players in the front row anymore. And that one particular rotation where Molly Stewart was serving for Lakeview, they were up 12-6, and you feel like, okay, if they give up a couple of points, but they get it back, they just have to side out as quickly as possible. And they couldn't side out. Molly Stewart serve set the tone. She got a couple of aces, but it really set the tone because Gerard couldn't get in the system. Lakeview was consistently getting momentum after momentum, and they went from down 12-6 in set 5 to winning 15-12 with 9 straight points in the 5th and decisive set. Talk about just a 5th set that just absolutely displays everything it went through in the first 4, because the first 4 sets were up and down, right? Gerard wins the first 2, Lakeview wins the next 2, and then the 5th set was like a microcosm of that, because Gerard comes out, goes up 12-6. It looks like they're going to roll in set 5, and then Lakeview scores 9 points in a row and wins 15-12. Gerard just could not stop the momentum. A couple of timeouts were called. They couldn't find a way to make a play. And I think that rotation is definitely the weakest one that they have. Not saying it's bad. Not saying it's like all of a sudden Gerard in that rotation is not a volleyball team that can play at a high level. But you're always going to have one rotation. Every team has a weakest rotation. Even Crestview has one rotation where it's like, okay, we want to side out of this one pretty quick. Every volleyball team has that. And for Gerard, unfortunately, Lakeview grabbed the momentum at the perfect time because their rotation that they were in just wasn't the one that is their strength. And that's just how it went. I think Gerard watching this match, it's been this story for them a lot this season. I want to bring up set 4 but with this point, because Gerard this season has definitely had stretches where they give up sets. And when you're up 2-1 in the match, you can't afford to lose a set 25-12. They did that against East Liverpool when they lost. You see some of their losses, and it's like they're close sets, but then you see one set where it's 25-12, 25-13. They just, every now and then, a different team shows up for a set, and you get in tournament time, you can't give up the sets. If they're gonna lose a set, it's got to be earned. And the third set was earned by Lakeview for sure. Third set was a very good Lakeview performance. Fourth set, Lakeview was still playing well, but Gerard didn't help themselves out, and that's why you see a 25-12 score in that set 4. And I think that's been a trend this year for the Indians, and Coach Walters is going to have to look at this last week. You got this last week to prepare for tournament time. That's it. So he's going to look at that and say, how can I fix this? How can I keep us away from those one set of matches sometimes against high-quality teams where we don't click for that set? They bounce back from it really quick, right? They had the 4 set where they lose 25-12, and they're right back in it. They go up 12-6 in the 5th set. So they bounce back from these tough sets very, very fast. They don't let it snowball. But at the same time, you want to stay away from them completely, and they're going to try to do that in the tournament. Going to be very interesting to see how they line up with Marlington, who gets to 1, who gets to 2, and who decides to go after who and what brackets they go into. Tournament draw is they seed Saturday. The draw is Sunday. So when we come back on Monday, we're going to have volleyball tournament time to talk about. Very, very exciting. Very exciting. You know what else is exciting? It's week 8 of football. So we're going to take a break. And when we come back, we'll have the Friday football talk. We'll talk about all the matchups. And we'll preview the night of football on Running Point. Brought to you, as always, by Greenwood Chevrolet in Austintown. We'll be right back.
21 News delivers the news as it happens, using the latest technology from where it happens.
Live here outside the Mahoney County.
On air, online,
Wednesday afternoon weather update.
Very dangerous.
and on the 21 News social media platforms.
I'm on the road right now.
21 News, the Valley's only locally owned source for trusted news since 1953.
Craftsmanship to us is 60 years of pride and dedication.
Passed down from generation to generation.
The hardwood floors that your kids take their first steps on.
The solid wood doors you quietly close at night.
The things we create day in and day out are the products that end up turning your house into a home.
At Baird Brothers Fine Hardwoods, uncompromising quality and craftsmanship built our business.
And it will keep us moving forward for generations to come.
Going the extra mile at Greenwood Chevrolet means we want to take care of the community that takes care of us too.
And we have to work together always. And that's how you stay in business for 40 years.
You know, I love being a helper because when I help somebody, it makes me feel good.
It means a lot that I can make a difference in others' lives.
So I will do everything I can and just being there for them every step of the way.
I want them to know within the first 5 minutes that they could depend on me. That's what going the extra mile means, only at Greenwood Chevrolet.
Before the lights come on, before the workday begins, before a long day is ended, or it's time to have fun. It all starts with the people at Joe Dickey Electric. From replacing a light fixture in your home to building a substation for your business, no job is too big or too small. The people of Joe Dickey Electric power them all. Joe Dickey Electric, over 60 years of powering the Mahoning Valley.
And welcome back to Running Point on ysnlive.com. As always, we are brought to you by those good friends. I'm pointing the wrong way. I told you it's Friday. One of those weird Fridays where your brain just completely shuts off. But it is brought to you by Greenwood Chevrolet in Austintown. And we are going to have our Friday football preview. We're going to talk about all these matchups in Week 8. We're going to bring up the Burdette Pools, Spas, and Hot Tubs scoreboard for you. We'll full screen it so you can see all the games that are going to be being played tonight. And we'll start from the top left side of your screen. Campbell Memorial traveling to Brookfield. Brookfield is coming off of that heartbreaking loss last week where it looked like they were in control. They had that game 26-7 lead at halftime. And then here comes LeBray just storming all the way back. Couple of defensive touchdowns, of course. The Devin Derry pick six to seal it late in the game. Tough one for Brookfield to handle, but they have a good opportunity to come back home in Week 8 and get a game against a team that is struggling, try to get some momentum heading into what they hope will be a playoff run. But Camel, on their end, played fantastic defense last week. Didn't allow a defensive touchdown. They just couldn't score an offensive touchdown. We've seen this Campbell team score before, so I think that game was an outlier. I don't think they're going to have a game where they necessarily completely struggle to score on offense, but they're going to have to try to stop Rico Smith, who has just been putting the team on his back in the last couple of weeks. Last week, he had a great game, and despite the loss. That's why he's up for Baird Brothers Big Dog of the Valley. I don't think we've ever had two players from the same game on opposite sides of the field both put up the numbers that it takes to be on the Big Dogs nominee list. And we have that for this one. Brookfield's Rico Smith up for Big Dogs, and then Devin Derry up for LeBray for Big Dogs. When you get a game-stealing pick six to add to your couple offensive touchdowns, that'll do it for you. By the way, Big Dog of the Valley voting is still open, and it is going to be open until Sunday at midnight. Volleyball, football, those two, and a lot more. Check out the nominees. Vote for your favorite player. Voting is unlimited. You can sit there and hit that button until your thumb is falling off if you want to. And it ends Sunday at midnight, and we will announce the winner on Monday, of course. Crestview and Champion. We're going to this one. Crestview has looked like a completely different football team the last couple weeks, right? They had a tough start to the season. They found one win, and they've kind of run with it. They've now trusted the results. They trust in the process. And this is a game at home that Crestview, like Brookfield, can take full advantage of, a team that is struggling. There's no way to sugarcoat it. Champion really struggling this year. They got the win last week, but they didn't score an offensive touchdown. They had a 7-0 win where they couldn't score offensively. They got to be able to score it against Crestview. Obviously, you got to score to win, but Crestview's not going to be a team that gets shut out. So, Champion trying to get a big win for their program, get some positivity going in that locker room, but it's going to be really tough against Crestview. We move on to Columbiana versus East Palestine. The Bulldogs coming off of their first conference win of the season and their first conference win in quite a while. And one of the things I'm really interested in this game, the Bulldogs have been playing different football all season. Like it's their first win of the year against Wellsville last week, but they had a couple of games where they were right there. If they would have made plays, could probably get to be competitive. You look at that Southern game, it's 42-7 the final score, but I've brought it up a couple of times. There was a point before Southern ran away with it where East Palestine is driving, they're in the red zone, and they have a very unfortunate pick six. It wasn't anybody's fault. I mean, it was a good pass, kid caught it, got drilled, ball pops in the air. Southern makes an amazing play, catches it, runs for a touchdown. So it wasn't one of those pick sixes where it's like, what are you doing? How are you throwing it to there? It was stroke of luck, and then Southern ran away with that game after that. But there's been a couple of other games where you see East Palestine playing well, being right there, being competitive. They get a win last week against Wellsville. So now what I'm interested in seeing this week from the Bulldogs is how they handle a week coming off a win. Because they've been there, they've been close, they've been trusting the process, but this is a team that, quite frankly, hasn't had to come off a big win in a little bit. So how you handle losses is just as important. How you handle wins is just as important as how you handle losses. You go in, do you still have the exact same routine and work ethic and drive that you did when you were trying to get your first win? And you saw Wellsville, and I think everyone in East Palestine, everyone in that locker room saw that as this is an opportunity. This is the Wellsville team that is pretty equal to us. We feel like we're not the big underdogs against Wellsville. We can go out there. We can really play with these guys. And they really did. They actually won handedly. So coming off of that win, what's the mindset in the locker room? How do the Bulldogs build off of it? Do they continue to do things the exact same way? And I feel like they will. I feel like this Bulldogs team is very hungry. They're well coached. Mike Dempster has a coach's corner up on ysnlive.com. He talks about it in length with Tim Figley. This is a team that's starting to build the building blocks of getting a program back to where they want it to be. And it starts with games like tonight where you don't fold after a win. This is going to be a very hard task for Columbiana, who's been playing well all season. Their record won't demonstrate it, but they've lost a couple of really close games where they're one possession away, one or two plays away from winning. So this Columbiana team is very good, but they're going on the road against a Palestine team that just got off their first win of the year, and they're feeling it. They're feeling that emotional high. So not going to be the easiest task in the world for Columbiana going on into East Palestine. I'm actually keeping a close eye on this one. East goes to Struthers. Struthers, the Wildcats, man. They've been playing with their hair on fire. You go back to that South Range game a couple of weeks ago. They played their butts off in that game. They gave up a 2-minute drill touchdown to lose by 4 to South Range, who has proven the rest of this NE8 season that they're just taking names, right? So Struthers barely losing that game. They've taken that as momentum. The next two games after that loss were steamrolls. They were just completely dominant football. Excellent execution on both sides of the ball. Not making a lot of mistakes. This Struthers team right now is playing extremely high level. And East is walking into a buzzsaw. And I mean, I hope they're ready for it, because this Struthers team wants to make a good tournament spot, and then they're not going to be happy with that. They want to make a big run in the tournament, and they're looking like they can absolutely do it. How about this one, Edgewood and Conneaut? Very interesting, because it's two different styles of football. You probably learned this by listening to my show every Friday. If you've been coming on Fridays, if you're a first timer, hey, how you doing? Thanks for coming on, and thanks for watching Running Point today. We hope you stick around for next week and all of our shows. But if you've watched me for a while, you know that I love the matchups between two different styles of football. Edgewood is the high-flying offense, and Conneaut is the very physical ball control, slow the game down type of team. So this game, like every other matchup that we've talked about with those kind of teams, is just going to come down to what team decides to control the tempo. If Conneaut holds the ball and keeps it away from Edgewood's offense, there's not much you can do. You can have all the talent in the world on the offensive side of the ball. If you're not touching it, then you can't score, right? So Edgewood's defense has been suspect at times, especially their run defense. Conneaut can run. If the Spartans don't let Edgewood catch fire, then this can be a very good game. I don't think Conneaut can get into a shootout with Edgewood. They don't want to get into an offensive spurt contest because they can't score with Edgewood. But if they can slow the game down, they can run with Edgewood, and they can definitely out physical them. So I'm interested in this one. I really am. I think Edgewood versus Conneaut going to be a sneaky good game tonight. Garrettsville Garfield, they've been absolutely dominant. They'll look to continue that against Newton Falls on the road. Last week, though, I will say the Liberty maybe put a couple of things on tape that teams can try to expose against Garfield. The problem is, a lot of teams don't have the personnel to do the things that Liberty does that gave Garfield problems. I mean, Liberty, when they had success, they were making those plays on the boundaries. They were getting space. They were doing things that you're not normally seeing out of a team like Newton Falls that is just a run-first, very run-heavy team. They're not necessarily have the personnel to do the things that Liberty was able to do. So, yes, Newton Falls has maybe a little bit of things on film that maybe they can try to attack on Garfield. But the question is, do they have what it takes to actually execute those? We're going to find out tonight in Newton Falls. It's another great one, or maybe great one. I don't know. The way the Knights are playing, every time they're playing a team that can give them a fight, it's a knockout in one round. We'll see what the Knights can do tonight. It's supposed to be a good game. Glenville's a very good football team, but Archbishop Hoban, they've been unimpressed by everybody that's come across them so far this year, and they've made every team that has been up against them look kind of silly. So we're going to have to see what Hoban does against Glenville tonight. A very good Glenville team. Canfield, after being off last week, comes back into action at home against Parma Heights Holy Name. Got to be honest, don't know much about that team they're playing, but Canfield should be well rested. I know they were a team like their volleyball team trying to fight the injury bug a little bit. Obviously, there are some players who are not going to get back this year, and that's already been kind of well established. But there are some players that were just little nicks and bruises that Canfield's hoping to get back tonight. So after the week off, they get back to action. Canfield at home against Parma Holy Name. Should be fun. Two really physical teams coming up next with Howland and Cheney. Very defensive. I expect this to be a low-scoring game. Neither team has a high-flying offense. I think the key for Cheney is, can they protect the quarterback? You know, we've seen when they've struggled, it's been because they're making Drew Galt just do way too much with his legs. He's an athlete that likes to escape, likes to improvise, but you can only play for so long when you're running for your life. You can only do that for so long. So Cheney's offensive line in pass protection especially, not maybe they're really much better at run blocking, but the pass protection, they got to give Drew Galt a little bit more of a comfort zone inside that pocket so he can make the plays that he and everybody else knows he can make. Hubbard and Lakeview. This is a game between two teams that really need a win. They both need a win. They both need them pretty bad. Lakeview trying to turn around. They played South Range so hard. And I don't know what happened. I don't know. Maybe they lost some players. I don't really know. But after that South Range game, the different Lakeview team showed up the next couple of weeks, 3 weeks now, where they haven't been the same Lakeview team we saw. So they need to turn it around, right? Because if that first Lakeview team that we saw in the first 4 weeks of the season, if that shows up, this is going to be a heck of a game. But Lakeview's gotta dig deep, gotta make the adjustments, gotta find a way to get back to the team that they know they can be. And they still have an opportunity to show people that they're not the Lakeview team that was last year, where they had a good start and they completely fell off a cliff in league play. If they get a couple of wins here in the end of the season, and they at least say, "Hey, we're 5-5," or they're 3 wins now, so 5-5, 6-4. That's very respectable, and that's a step up from last year, which is all you want to do. You want to improve from the year before. So looking to see Lakeview if they can turn that bus around a little bit. Jackson Milton versus Lowville. This should be a good one. This should really actually be a good one. If Jackson Milton, this is a big if they can find a way to slow Lowville down. You're not going to stop them. You're not going to shut out this offense. But Jackson Milton's offense, if it's just a guns out, guns out, sun's out, guns out. By the way, the sun will not be out tonight. If you're heading out, make sure to bring your umbrellas and ponchos because Storm Tracker 21 is calling for a pretty sizable amount of rain tonight, which will be the first sizable rain during a football week in the season. But that might favor Jackson Milton. Can you run around and throw in the rain? I don't know. This is going to be a game where the weather might be a big impact. Jackson Milton wants it low scoring. They want their offense to be able to run the ball, take advantage of stuff. They have a lot of those two-back formations with Aiden Stanky as a fullback where they can do a lot of things. Can the Blue Jays turn the ball over too? Because they turned the ball over quite a bit last week. Save them on defense with being taking the ball away. So those are going to be two keys. Can Jackson Milton take the ball away, and how much does the weather affect this game? Lakeside going to Geneva. Geneva has been a thorn in YSN's side for this season. Every YSN team they've played, they've beaten, and most of them haven't been close. Lakeside trying to change all that against the Eagles tonight. Lisbon, Latonia. So now this is kind of like East Palestine, right? Where East Palestine's coming off their big first win of the season. Now, it's not that situation in Lisbon. They're not coming off their first win, but they're coming off of back-to-back massive victories against the top teams in the EOAC that not a lot of people gave them a chance to win. So now I think the next factor is how do they handle that? How do they handle success? Lisbon has not been a football team that has been in this position yet where they have the opportunity to go, 8-2 if they win out. And be a very, very in a very good spot for playoffs. This is not a team that's used to that. So how do they handle success? We talked about East Palestine earlier. Lisbon's in the same boat. How do they handle back-to-back weeks against really strong teams? Do they take care of business tonight and just go and play the same style of football? They might win tonight either way, but I want to see Lisbon own the field tonight. I want to see them say, yes, we won 2 games in a row, but that is behind us, and we are focused on the last 3 weeks of the season. If they are still celebrating the last 2 wins, then you'll be able to tell they're not this supremely talented team that can afford to take the foot off the gas pedal. They need to play hard. They need to make those plays for themselves. They've been having fortuitous bounces the last couple weeks, but those plays come from the effort. Like Lisbon's effort gives them some luck. So they have to make sure that they're staying that same way. They don't let the foot off the gas. Because Latonia has proven at times. There have been flashes in this season where, okay, they're playing good defense. They're playing more disciplined football. And you don't want to give them hope. So Lisbon, I'm watching to see how Lisbon handles success tonight. Jefferson hosting Madison. Jefferson obviously having a little bit of a tough season. Trying to end all that at home tonight against Madison. Fitch welcoming Massillon, Washington. Massillon obviously in the news, and the OHSAA last week giving their quarterback the eligibility rights to play after that was up in the air. I'm not going to go too far into that storyline because obviously that was a lot of people on both sides of that fence and what was going on down there. But everyone seems to be good to go as far as eligibility. So you're going to get a fully strong Massillon Washington Tigers team coming into Fitch, which will bode for a very good game. Springfield, another test against Middle Ridge. Can they stop Ian Erb? Can Middle Ridge stop Colton Rourke somehow? That's going to be a fun game inside New Middletown between the two teams in orange and black. Good luck telling them apart from deep in the stands. Girard and Poland. This one's sneaky good. Girard has shown that they have the ability to play, but I think consistency is going to be a big thing for Girard. They were right there with South Range. It was 28-21, and then they kind of fell off the wagon a little bit because of turnovers and penalties. So can they stay consistent? Can they play a consistent game? If they can give Poland a lot of fits. If they don't, Poland's going to run away with it. I was really impressed with Poland last week coming off of that disappointing loss to South Range. So now the question remains, can they continue that? Because if they can win out, they just have to hope they get some they get some help with South Range. My brain just completely flubbed that whole sentence. Welcome to Friday, right? We go to Salem, traveling to Carrollton. Salem coming off their first win of the season. They're hoping to make it 2 tonight. United traveling to Wellsville. We have Villa Anna St. Joe's against Ursuline. This is going to be a very good matchup. Ursuline has passed every test that they've had so far, but that doesn't mean the next test isn't coming, right? So everything that they've done can be kind of washed away if they don't step up tonight. This is a schedule for Ursuline that there are no nights off. There is no nights where you can just say, let's pack it in, let's write it off as a win. This team going to be tested again tonight. Villa Anna St. Joe's is the real deal. McDonald having an off night of conference play. They will welcome in Wyndham. The Bombers have been playing better. We saw them in the first couple weeks of the season really struggle to find their identity, really struggle to score. But now it's a big test, right? Because they're playing a very good McDonald team on the road. Can they kind of keep that momentum alive? McDonald needs to win too, though. So McDonald's going to be a very desperate team at home to get a win. Tough situation for Wyndham. Mooney trying to bounce back from their loss last week to Cheney as they play Warren Harding. And Mooney's schedule is just like Ursuline's, where there's not going to be a time to take a day off, not going to be a time to lick your wounds. Hey, you lost, but there's no time to dwell on it. You got to get right back up because Warren Harding's coming to town, and you got to be able to get up and play for that game. Cardinal traveling to Grand Valley. Going to be a fun one in Ashtabula tonight. How about this one? I'm loving this one. Alliance at West Branch. Alliance's quarterback is committed to Oklahoma to play football. West Branch's Bo Alazas has been playing with his hair on fire. Their offense has looked as close to unstoppable as it possibly can be. This might be for the EBC. I know there's a couple of weeks left after this one, but both these teams have looked very good this year. If Alliance was a YSN school, they'd be in the power rankings. So this would be a power ranking team, but they're not. So it's not, of course. And West Branch trying to make another big statement, a big win. They've had a couple of them already. Remember Ridgeville? They went in that game. Everyone said, okay, we're going to find out about this West Branch team. Maybe they're not what they were last year. Ridgeville was undefeated. West Branch wins, right? So West Branch keeps winning these big games that people are saying, maybe this is when we find out who West Branch really is. They have another opportunity tonight at home in Beloit against the Aviators. Waterloo and Western Reserve doing battle tonight. We have Edison hosting Buckeye Local. Edison trying to get back to winning after 2 really heartbreaking losses. A walk-off field goal in the last week's game against East Liverpool. The week before, Toronto beat them by 8. So 2 really close losses in a row. Edison trying to bounce back in a big way. Orange travels to Hawken, not the town from Stranger Things, but the high school football team, as they try to get another win on their season. LeBray goes to Liberty. I'm interested in this one. I really am. LeBray has had a more consistent stretch in the last couple of weeks. The first couple of weeks, we were wondering what LeBray team was going to show up because one week they looked really good, one week they didn't. Now it's more consistent where we know what LeBray team we're going to get, but now you're starting to see inside the game consistency issues, right? So can they play 4 full quarters of very good football? Liberty has proven that if you slip up just a little bit, like get out of position, they are fast, they're athletic, they will take advantage of that. So consistency is going to be a key for LeBray tonight, because Liberty will really quickly take advantage of any type of little misstep that you make. Even if you're up by 21, they can score in a hurry. We saw that in the Lakeview game where they scored 14 points in the matter of like 20 seconds coming out of halftime. South Range traveling to Niles. This game was looking like it would be a matchup for first place in the NE8, but Niles fell last week to Poland. So now it's not for first place. Niles is just trying to bring South Range down to a tie with a couple of teams. Obviously, Poland is Niles' biggest fan right now, because not only would they cause a logjam at the top of the NE8 that Poland would be a part of, but it would also give Poland a little bit of leeway in those playoff rankings as well, and give them points if Niles was to win, because obviously every team that you beat, when they get wins after you beat them, you get a little bit of extra computer boost. So Poland is going to be rooting hard for Niles while they're playing Girard. And South Range has been up for every test. Like every year, it's just like, hey, this is the team that might beat South Range. Nope. Every year it's the same story. It might not be as dominant this year as it has been, but they're still finding ways to win. And that's all that matters in South Range country. Matthews is going to be traveling to Pymatuning Valley tonight. Obviously, Matthews not a YSN team, but we all know they've been having a really tough year, and they're going to go up against a Pie Valley team that is big, strong, and physical. Not the team you want to play while you're struggling. Boardman traveling to Dover tonight as they try to get back on track. The Spartans will be on the road. So will Beaver Local. They're going to be in Indian Creek. They're trying to get back on track after a couple of losses to NE8 teams in a row. So with that being said, let's get to who you can watch on the network tonight and what announcers will have you taken care of. Let's go to our YSN spreadsheet. Friday, October 6th. Got a lot of green, a lot of games being covered. We will start at the top with Campbell Memorial at Brookfield. Nate DeCross and Quinn Pushkar will be there for that one. 7 o'clock kickoff. Tony Parazio will be at Crestview for Champion and Crestview. The Figley brothers are going to be at East Palestine for Columbiana and EP. Steve Hodge and Tom Otto are going to be at Struthers as East comes to town. Conneaut will be on WOW TV, which is Conneaut's broadcast channel. It'll be on YouTube, and our YSN Live link that you go to our live games page, we'll have a link to that. So you can still find it on the live games page to go and watch, and that one will be covered as well. Garrettsville Garfield at Newton Falls. CJ Bako going to be on the call there for that one. Ala Caberna heading to Archbishop Hoban as they take on Glenville. Eric Hughes and Gary Niddle going to be in Canfield as they welcome in Parma Holy Name. Noah Ricks traveling to Cheney with Hallen to call that one in Youngstown. Jamie Thompson and Zach Svensson going to be on the road with Hubbard as they travel to Lakeview. Sam Torres and Sean Prine going to be at Geneva for Lakeside at Geneva football tonight. Rick Daly going to be traveling with Lisbon as they go to Latonia. We have Maslin, Washington, and Austin Town Fitch, the voice of the Falcons, Mr. Ty Bartell on the call there. Noah Doty and CJ Schroeds going to be on the call for Middle Ridge at Springfield. We'll have Matt Marr and Jordan Barber and Girard for Poland at Girard tonight. Matt Mowry and Jared Niederheiser, our Salem crew, going to be traveling with the Quakers to Carrollton. You got Gary Altizer, who's going to be in Wellsville for United at Wellsville. Tim Corso and Julian Johnson going to be in Ursuline as they welcome in Villa Anna St. Joe's. That'll be at Youngstown State, obviously. Dom O'Brien going to be at Mooney as they play Warren Harding. Tyler Hartz and the Grand Valley Students going to be covering their game against Cardinal. We have Chris Sigler traveling to West Branch for Alliance at West Branch. Going to be a big one. Props to Chris Sigler for making sure that one gets on the network. Michael Jadaki going to be traveling to Indian Creek with Beaver Local as they face the Redskins. Michael McKenzie. I don't know why I was thinking West Branch still if I said Michael Janaki. Michael McKenzie going to be traveling with Beaver Local as they head to Indian Creek. DJ Yoakley will be on the call as South Range travels to Niles tonight. Chris Colucci going to be traveling to Western Reserve, so those two splitting up a little bit as Colucci will be in Western Reserve for Waterloo versus the Blue Devils. And then Mohawk and Beaver Falls are going to be covered by John Ostapowitz. And so he'll be in Mohawk tonight for some PA football. Some games that are happening that unfortunately will not be on the network. LeBray and Liberty, Wyndham and McDonald, Boardman at Dover, Edison hosting Buckeye Local, Pie Valley hosting Matthews, Orange and Hawken, and then Sebring taking on Stryker. We also will not have Jackson Milton at Lowville either. While we have you here, before we sign off, let's preview the Saturday that you're going to see. 3 football games on the network tomorrow for Saturday. St. John hosting Fairport Harding. CJ Bako also going to be on the call as Warren JFK hosts St. Thomas Aquinas at Liberty. Also at Liberty, later on that night, CJ Bako will be back for Southern at Valley Christian. So all those games happening tomorrow. 12 o'clock for JFK, 7 o'clock for the other two. Those will both be on the network. East Liverpool is also playing tomorrow at Bel Air. For volleyball tomorrow, we have Cheney playing Ravenna, United playing Salem, Bristol playing Heartland. Boys soccer tomorrow, Hoban at Orange, Crestview at Badger, Beaver Local at Lakeview. Girls soccer tomorrow, Luke Davis is going to be at Salem as they welcome in Chagrin Falls at 12. Also playing tomorrow, United at West Branch and Struthers at Columbiana. So all that happening over the weekend while we sign off for the day. And we once again remind you to head over to ysnlive.com/live to check out all the great stuff that we have going on this weekend. One good place to watch it, and you can find it at ysnlive.com. Thank you so much for tuning in. For this comment, yes, the Austintown Fitch Massillon game will be streamed live tonight. Ty Bartell will be on the call from Austintown Fitch. So not to worry if you're watching from Massillon. We've had a couple of people from that community already ask us if it's going to be on. It absolutely will. ysnlive.com/live. Free live broadcast. You can find it there on there so you can show that. And then a go. Just a go from Lonnie Dean. Lonnie Dean, go, yeah, go. I don't know, go. Thank you for watching, Lonnie, and giving me a little bit of a bright spot at the end of this show. ysnlive.com/live is where you can find all the games tonight. And we'll be back on Monday to talk about it all on Running Point from 1 to 2. As always, we are brought to you by our good friends over at Greenwood.